I didn't know anything about it.
Thank you so much for helping us. Well, when that is something
Good evening, everybody. We're going to get started. My name is Dia, and I'm part of Stop Saugerties Battery Storage. And I know we could probably hear each other without the mic, but we're going to use it to help with the recording and to make sure everyone can hear. Thank you so much for coming. Welcome. We really appreciate your concern. We really appreciate your participation and also your valuable time. I'm going to start out by telling you the outline of the agenda. I'll be doing a little bit of framing of how this got started and a little bit on home rule and the importance of it. And then Liz this is Liz. I'll introduce her properly later. She's doing an overview of the current application for the best by KCD. And then we have a speaker who's an expert on renewable energy doing a talk on technology. And we have Eve doing a talk on safety, and he'll get properly introduced later too. Then we have an open discussion where everyone can say what they'd like to say, and a little bit of regroup so that we can look at next steps. The one thing I'd like to ask your cooperation on is that the only thing we're talking about here is battery storage. That's the only topic. I will be focusing on that. Okay, so we have evidence that the first correspondence with KCE and the town was in March of 2025. That's when all of this got started in some form. And then not a word was uttered publicly. Suddenly in February, there were 3 meetings, which I call the 1, 2, 3 punch. One was a, if you will, infomercial by the company about their product. 2, in February again, was a town board meeting with presentation by 3 people who are avid proponents, to say the least, of this facility. And then February 17th, suddenly the planning board is taking up the application. So what I'm trying to say is not a lot of time for people to get to know what's going on, people to ask questions, people to learn. So my question is, what's the rush? More on that coming. The home rule issue is very important because I don't know how you feel, but I feel that we should have local control over certain decisions. And what kind of facilities get put in the middle of our town and village should be one of them. Especially if they have dangers attached to them. New York has very strong home rule law, and there are bills in the Senate and Assembly. There are papers in the back, so you can get more information if you like. It basically enables the state to bypass completely any local permitting or approval of battery storage facilities. And that is the direction that a lot of policy is going, and I feel not only is it not good around battery storage, but it's a dangerous precedent for our state to be able to make decisions and force them upon us. And Yeah, so it means that local planning board decisions that are getting made now may be the last meaningful opportunity for municipal control. So that's one reason we would encourage you all to participate. As I said, there are 2 news articles on home rule in the back you can take. There's a list of officials you can contact about battery storage and also home rule. I'll finish by saying I have this funny idea that elected officials are supposed to represent us. And I have asked the town board to oppose the eroding of home rule. Did not get any response, but as our representatives, I feel that's one thing they should be doing. Last, I'll say a quote that Governor Hochul made. The state has ideas that's about energy, and localities are getting in the way. That's a direct quote. Any of this that you want more information on, please let us know. We have more information, we can talk to you later too. Okay, so that's all done. Liz is a very important member of Stop Saugerties Battery Storage. She's a program manager and works on the World Trade Center Healthcare Program, and has over 20 years as a resident of beautiful Saugerties. So far, it's beautiful. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Dia. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Elizabeth Reese. As Claudia mentioned, I'm a 20-plus years resident of Saugerties. Before that, I was down in the city of Brooklyn for like 15 years, and I moved up here. I worked in IT project management and program management for over 30 years. While I was down in the city, I sold a new 911 system to NYPD, so I have experience in working with the police and emergency dispatch, and obviously now I support the World Trade Center Healthcare Program, which provides health coverage to first responders, their family, and police who are impacted from the World Trade Center, which is a privilege to serve in that program. And thank you for letting me participate in this tonight under these very unfortunate circumstances. So, please bear with us. We've got quite a lot of information. We'll try to keep it fairly light. Okay, so we're going to go through the who, what, where, and why, and the so what, and what we're doing, how we're challenging it, what comes next, and what other communities are doing. So who? As you know, KCE, New York 34 LLC is the company that's proposing the facility here in Saugerties. This is a limited purpose LLC that's in order to limit liability upstream to Key Capture Energy, on up to SKENS, and on up to the SK Group, which is a South Korean conglomerate, a massive conglomerate. They're LLC, so they can declare bankruptcy without impacting their parent companies, can walk away from legal obligations if sold, transferred, abandoned, or bankrupt. Decommissioning, there will be a decommissioning bond, which has been discussed, but in the application packet, there is nothing about how obsolescence or useful life or the decreasing efficiency of these batteries are handled. There is something that states they may leave some structures in place once they're gone, and there is nothing about recycling or disposal location for the lithium batteries. So from an environmental perspective and from an ownership perspective, there are concerns, including the supply chain. What is being proposed? A large-scale industrial facility of 100 megawatts, which would make it one of the biggest in the state, would also make Saugerties an early adopter at this scale. 136 battery containers, not 10 that was in the literature that was provided to people at the Key Capture science fair. The size will cover about 10 football fields of these containers. The battery units are lithium iron phosphate. Even though they're improved on previous technology, it's still a danger that's being brought into the middle of our community. The type and the source of these batteries is unspecified. The application talks about Tesla megapacks. A subsequent communication talks about a different type of battery. All of this will actually affect the chemistry of the batteries and the layout and the footprint. It includes transformers, which are noisy. It includes cooling systems that are noisy. It includes access roads, and it also includes a utility interconnection with Central Hudson. The location is behind CVS Plaza near McDonald's, if anybody is not quite clear. The nearest homes in the village boundary are all within 500 feet. It will be continuous operations with local impact and potential significant impacts. The key questions that we have, and obviously people are all coming to this with different opinions, but there are some basic questions that as a community we should all be able to ask and have answers to. Number one, is this the right location? Is this the right technology? Is it safe? Does the zoning need updating? And is there going to be a full environmental review? Battery storage does not produce energy. They store electricity generated elsewhere and return less than they take in, approximately 80%, due to inherent efficiency losses. They are net consumers of energy, not generators. What else is being proposed? On the adjacent parcel that was actually part of the original key capture negotiations with the town back in March, there is another lot that was tied to key capture, which now has a big solar farm going in, approximately 45 acres with around 25 acres of disturbance. And this has been given a CEQA classification type 1. And for those who aren't familiar with the whole concept of CEQA, that's about triggering environmental reviews. So the classification is very important because that will determine the process as it goes through planning. It will determine future potential litigation. The BEV project, on the other hand, they have 60 acres of leased property. Although the initial build only specifies 10 to 11 acres, they have the capacity to expand. So everybody should keep that on their minds. And yet, the secret classification is currently unlisted, which would mean lesser reviews. The combined scale of these two projects is about 100 acres. The companies have been asked to coordinate. Originally, both parcels were part of the same zoning determination. The shared infrastructure, including the new access road, and there's overlapping reviews on timing. So what's happening by separating these out, is what's called segmentation, which actually exposes the town to lawsuits. By doing that, it is illegal. Key issues: cumulative impact not evaluated, which is illegal segmentation, combined deforestation and environmental impacts, combined noise, combined impact on the stormwater pollution, the incorrect CEQA classification. That should be given the type 1 classification and not the unclassified, which would have lesser reviews. The solar has been given type 1 and it will get higher reviews even though it's not as dangerous. Let's just try this, change this mic again. Where is it going to be? At 7 Thompson's Road, the town of Saugerties, behind CVS Plaza near McDonald's. I put like a hand-fisted overlay on. Here you can see the two parcels that both applicants have access to. The solar farm of 45 acres, the battery folks have 60 acres. Here's the shared access road, and here you can probably see some of our key landmarks, not least there's the Saugerties High School, there's a Starbucks, there's Country Meadows Apartments, a high density population area very close to the battery facility. And the next question is why? And I apologize, this is a little bit of a complicated screen. But if we start at the federal level, massive financial incentives, artificial economics resulted in rapid rollouts. In 2018, batteries were allowed to buy low, sell high model, and then proceeding to 2022, which allowed batteries attached to the grid without generating any electricity. Developers racing to lock in tax credits, secure interconnection rights, and establish vested rights. Vested rights are when a project gets so far along that the town cannot stop it without incurring a lawsuit potentially. So by inching it through the planning process, it's inching towards having this vested right status. And more about that shortly. The incentives, so what happens if the incentive changes and the long-term viability in terms of the financial benefits to these companies change? What happens then? What happens when they walk away from it? The state of New York in 2019 mandated 70% renewable energy by 2030, 100% by 2040, with 6 gigawatts of storage as a target. In February of this year, there was a New York State bill in committee, and this will interest people who do live close to it. It's in committee right now where they want to change the setbacks to be up to at least 1,000 feet as opposed to the current 500 feet. So this would push the footprint further away from our residences in the town and the village, which I think is important to support this bill. And that includes development of model municipal best siting laws and increased focus on fire safety and public protection. The fact that this bill is out there in committee with these as goals shows that these goals have not been sufficiently addressed in the current legislation as it stands on the books or in our local zoning laws. In March of 2026, which is just this month, there was a leaked NYSERDA memo to say that these policies will add approximately $4,000 annually to consumers' bills, especially for those of us using gas or oil still. So they're trying to make it so burdensome to push everybody into electric, and it's gonna cost us in our pocket, and as you know, we're already paying thousands more right now. Now, recently, Hochul is saying that she's now backing off. The policy shift is pushing timelines back by 10 years. I know a lot of people are upset about that, but I think personally, a lot of us are grateful to have some breathing room so that this concept can be approached logically in a way that the community can be involved with and in a rational manner as opposed to a new modern gold rush. In Ulster County, there was in November of last year a resolution that was unfortunately defeated along party lines, expressing concern about BESS in Ulster County and supported a moratorium until regulations in safety and environmental concerns were addressed. The Town of Saugerties project, December the application formally was submitted. February 17th, we had the planning board pre-hearing, which was the first time at the planning board, and the enlisted secret classification happened pretty much straight away. In February 28th, the planning board was appointed the lead agency. In March 17th, the planning board reviews continued with the EAF Part 2, which is what they're working on right now. And in April 21st will be the next planning board meeting. So it's still under review. I do want to also highlight this. A March 20th article, why BESS insurers are sweating transformers and contract errors over battery fires. Now that there's starting to be more momentum towards these battery facilities, it's starting to impact the insurance agency who is starting to take a look at it. For underwriters, this is a quote from the article, for underwriters ensuring gigawatt scale battery energy storage systems, thermal runaway is no longer the only bogeyman. It's the velocity of product development, inexperienced integration, and vulnerabilities in the balance of plant that are keeping the insurance industry on its toes. So this is becoming a full circle situation. Everybody's waking up, and